We all know the story. September 7th, 2018, Malcolm McCormick died at the age of 26. But do we really know the artist? Do we understand the impact and the artistic growth that he achieved in such a short amount of time? Let's talk about Mac Miller. Mac was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on January 19th, 1992. Growing up, he always wanted to be a musician, and by the age of 6, it's said that he could play the guitar, bass, drums, and piano. He aspired to become a singer, but his peers weren't so sure about his abilities, until one day, it's reported that he started a freestyle while hanging out with his friends, and by the time he was finished, he and everyone around him knew that his true talent resided in rap. And at the age of 15, he began to put all of his time and effort into honing his craft. He stopped being a normal teenager. He quit sports, spent less time partying, and even skipped school. A lot. Originally, going by the name Easy Mac, he released his debut mixtape, But My Mackin' Ain't Easy, in 2007. And by 2009, he reinvented himself as Mac Miller and put out a couple tapes under his new name. These tapes, and the talk around his city of Pittsburgh, got him noticed by a local label, Rostrum Records, in 2010. And this is where the story begins. Around the time the label noticed him, Mac was working on a new mixtape, and up until that point, Rostrum wasn't completely sure about signing Mac until hearing this new project, a mixtape called Kids. This was the point where things really started to move. Rostrum Records signed Mac Miller in August of 2010. Kids was officially released. The record didn't go over well with the radio, but in the relatively new age of technology, Mac had the idea to reach out to fans in a new way, social media. Mac started to receive a rapidly increasing following on social media, and because of this, his reach was now global. And this was recognized by many, including XXL, who included Mac in their 2011 freshman list, which featured new and upcoming artists like Meek Mill, YG, and Kendrick Lamar. Mac's music at this point expressed the feelings that he felt and the things that he was going through. His music, all the way up to his debut album Blue Slide Park, was fun, radio-friendly music that kids could party and have fun with their friends to. Hits like Best Day Ever and Donald Trump exemplified this. Although the sales overall were pretty good for the mixtape and his debut album, even earning him a gold plaque, they lacked depth. They lacked a real artistic edge, and even though Mac had started a movement with his party rap anthems, critics weren't satisfied, and neither was he. Mac fought bouts of depression and self-doubt as he read about what many said and thought was an incredibly underwhelming debut release. Mac was determined to change critics' minds as he started trying to ease the pain and find himself in his true artistic vision. He started experimenting with drugs, namely codeine cough syrup and psychedelics. Out of this came Mac Miller's most ambitious release up to this point, his mixtape, Macadelic. Macadelic was a truly experimental project influenced heavily by psychedelic drugs and depressive thoughts, which was exactly what was flowing through Mac at the time. The mixtape was well received by audiences, and the love many seemed to have for this new sound inspired his sophomore album, Watching Movies with the Sound Off. This album was the next step. Building off Macadelic, it did quite well, as it debuted number 3 on the Billboard 200. However, Mac still couldn't defeat this depression, and this showed as each release gradually became darker and darker. After 2013, Mac's contract with Rostrum Records expired, and he opted to become completely independent. And during this time, Mac dropped what could be considered his most underrated body of work, which was Faces. Faces is another very dark tape from a time in Mac's life where drugs ruled over him. And if you listen to this record, it's very obvious. The final track on Faces was titled Grand Finale, a track which Mac thought may have been his last. However, it wasn't. In 2015, things started to change for Mac. He started to turn his life around, and although not completely sober, he was definitely moving in the right direction. And with a newly signed multi-million-dollar major label deal, Mac released his new project, Good AM. Another great project with transparent lyrics, it paints a picture of Mac in a winning battle against his depression and drug abuse. As heard in the heart-wrenching track, Perfect Circle, Godspeed, where he sums up his experiences and admits his problems.
The white lines be numbing them dark times, the pills that I'm popping, I need a man up, admit it's a problem, I need to wake up, before one morning I don't wake up.
Mac is at his most vulnerable here, but as he realizes his mistakes, he also realized that there were things in life that were worth experiencing, and by 2016, he had reported that he was completely sober. Mac also had a new girlfriend, Ariana Grande, and this relationship, along with things he had already been experiencing, inspired his next project, The Divine Feminine. This was Mac paying tribute to all the women in his life, and it marked a pivotal moment in his career, as he was completely sober and confident in his work, and it showed. Mac seemed very happy and content with his life, but his tortured soul was not completely satisfied, and by 2017, Mac started to experiment with drugs once again, which ultimately tore apart his life and relationship with Ariana Grande. Mac was again on a downward spiral, reportedly wrecking his car, resulting in a DUI, among other things. And in 2018, Mac Miller released his fifth and final album, Swimming. A mixture of emotions filled with beauty and sadness, something that represented him and the life that he'd lived. And after his unfortunate passing, only a month later, an already eerie and emotional album stirred these feelings even more, never realizing how deeply personal some lyrics are, until it's too late. Although we mourn the death of Mac Miller, we should also appreciate his life and the journey he took us on, with each project being more personal than the next. His ability to transform his feelings into music was Mac's true gift, a gift that keeps giving. Because even though many of his projects were full of depression, this is exactly what many people needed to hear and will continue to need to hear. It's personal and it's real. People experiencing depression can confide in much of Mac's music, knowing that even celebrities have these feelings. People can listen to pieces like Kids and feel like a kid again, or people can listen to The Divine Feminine and feel the love that they can spread to others. Mac Miller created more than collections of songs. He created art that felt exactly like he did at the time. They were filled with human emotions, and no matter the time period, all humans will experience the emotions that Mac felt. And it's in that we can find peace, knowing that whatever you may feel, Mac Miller is there to feel the same way.